Hey guys, let me turn on my camera. I didn't set it properly. Give me 1 second. And there we go. Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. My name's Josh. Cultivate Your Best Self is about seeking a deeper knowledge of yourself, who you aspire to become, and how and why you value time and money. So, really quickly, I have an announcement to make before I get started on the live stream, kind of continuing on where we left off on Tuesday. Just sharing some life stories so you guys can get to know me a little bit better. But the announcement, let me adjust this. The announcement is that I've enrolled in a business program that's going to kind of accelerate my transition into this life strategist accountability coaching career. And so I'm really excited to be starting this. This is something that I've been thinking about for quite a bit of time. And I kind of needed some guidance in how to like really fully commit to this transition. And hey, Suzanne, welcome to the live stream. And so, I've been in and out of meetings over the past few days with some onboarding individuals that work with this business program, and just working with them and seeing the quality of the content that they have, and the testimonials, the things that people experience, gives me a lot of confidence that this is gonna work out for me, and it's really going to allow me to really kind of exhibit the core values that I've been wanting to live my life by. And some of you who have been following me kind of understand what my top 5 core values are, but really the two that are aligned with this whole life strategy accountability coaching career is impact and integrity. And for a while, like when it came to like my health or my family, or things that I feel like I have a really good grasp on right now, integrity was not an issue. But when it came to kind of doubling down in terms of wanting to actually start helping people kind of one-on-one, I was spending too much time learning and not taking enough action into actually like moving forward with my business and actually getting clients. But doing this business program is a really big step for me. And on top of that, I've set a meeting with my first potential client. I excuse me, I announced on my personal Instagram and my business account, which is my Cultivate Your Best Self Instagram account. I kind of did a soft launch of my life strategy and accountability coaching, and I got some interest. I reached out to the people that were expressing interest, and I have a meeting set up now, and I will have a second meeting set up about a week from now. And it's really exciting because tomorrow I'll be meeting with my first potential client, and over this next 12 weeks I'm going to be going through this business program. And part of that is needing to take some time away from doing these live streams, because my focus is going to be on this business program, and attending as much as I can and being fully involved in it as much as I can. It's tough because we have my 4-month-old son and kind of no one to take care of him. So I'm right now, it's the responsibility is we don't have a babysitter or anything, so I'm kind of stepping in as his father and, and taking care of him and everything. And so I'm gonna have to balance those two things, and it's gonna get a little hectic. So that being said, like I mentioned, I'm gonna be taking a break just for that 12-week period of this business program, so that I can focus on being a father for my son, and taking this big step for me in this whole new transition into a new career. And I'm really excited I'm really excited to see where it's going to take me, and I can't wait to share with you guys kind of how my journey's been, and how everything went. when I come back. In the meantime, I'm going to be posting a lot of YouTube Shorts. I have a lot of content kind of curated for YouTube Shorts, a lot of quick tips here and there, insights into strategies that you can use to cultivate your best self. And yeah, and so I'm gonna have hopefully a full-fledged business 12 weeks from now, and I'm gonna be sharing like a lot of the content that I share with my clients, and a lot of the things that we go through kind of one-on-one. As I gain more experience in this realm, I'll be sharing stories of things that people have overcome working with me, and things that I am sure that you guys can overcome if you follow some of the tips and strategies, and the things that I talk about on this channel. So really excited for that. That's the announcement that I had, and gonna drink some water really quick, and then I'll get back into kind of telling a little bit more about myself. I think I left off on Tuesday kind of talking about what college was like for me. And this is kind of a really big like kind of transition. And thank you. I appreciate that. Suzanne says, "Oh, congratulations! Good for you. Looks like it says good for your." It says good for you. Yeah, I when I was on the call today, kind of finalizing like the finances of taking this business program. It was kind of like that last step of really like committing to this whole new transition of what I'm going to be doing. And it's just it feels good. It feels good to be taking this step, and I feel like I'm finally moving in the direction that I want to move in my career life. So I left off on college, so let me get into it. In the transition period, the summer between my senior year in high school and my first year of college, I took, I think some of you guys who were here kind of remember that between seventh grade and my senior year in high school, I had terrible acne, like really bad, to the point where I was super kind of quiet and shy, and didn't have any confidence in myself in terms of the way that I looked. And that all changed the summer between my senior year in high school and college. And the reason why that changed is because I want to say it was a friend of the family's, I'm not sure, but there's this guy, a dermatologist that my mom and my grandma knew. I believe it was my grandma. It was a dermatologist that I went to out in towards LA, and he prescribed me this controversial drug that I don't believe is on the market anymore, because it was linked to people committing suicide. And that was one of the things that he had to share with me. Like I had to sign a waiver saying, hey, like this is one of the side effects, like you could potentially go into like a severe depression and commit suicide. And so I remember having to sign a document that kind of released the dermatologist, which was crazy. But I think at that time I felt pretty confident that I wasn't going to reach that point. But at the same time, like I had no idea whether or not the pill was gonna kind of mess with the chemicals within my own body, right? Like the chemicals within my brain, and make me feel like wanting to do that. But before I did it, like I think part of it too was like just feeling desperate for wanting some kind of answer to relieve me of this what I've been feeling over the past like 6 years of just dealing with this terrible acne. And so I ended up doing it. I took it for I think it was for the 3 months between that summer. I took it for 3 months, and it was the weirdest experience. And I'll tell you why. So when I first started the pill, like the acne that I got were like these really big red spots. Like this is not acne. This is just a red spot. But it was kind of like maybe this one here. Like it was like these really big red welts, and then I'd get a lot of like little like white heads like all over. And so it was a combination of like those those white heads and then those big red welts. And I started taking the pill, and I remember the dermatologist telling me, "Hey, just so you know, it's gonna get worse before it gets better." And I'm like, "How could it get worse? It's already really terrible." And so I started taking the pill, and it started to get worse. It started to get pretty bad, and I started breaking out even more, and not just on my face, but like other parts of my body too, like my back. I got some on my chest, and like I want to say like a month and a half in, it got to the point where the acne on my face, and I kid you not, this is exactly what happened. The all of my acne, like all over, started turning into like the basically like these green, what felt like a green bump. It was like a yellowish green bump, and it was so weird. But I remember the dermatologist telling me like, if that happens, like leave your face alone. Don't try and take it off. Just like leave it alone. And so I think I experienced that for about, I want to say about like a week or two, from what I recall, of these green bumps, like yellowish green bumps. And it was like, it was the worst thing. Like I stayed home, I didn't go out at all. And by the end of the 3 months, those green bumps literally started to just fall off, and underneath was like nice skin. And I was amazed. I was like, what is happening? Like it was like all those green bumps were just like falling off, and my face was clear underneath. And I was like in shock, looking in the mirror like, it worked. And after that, like my acne never got that bad ever again. And so going into college, I kind of made this determination of like, you know what, I'm gonna be a completely different person from what I was in high school. Like I'm gonna be outgoing, I'm gonna be, you know, extroverted, get to know everybody, and and that's kind of how that's how it went, right? Like I went in with that intention of, you know, being more friendly, more outgoing, and I got a lot of good friends, you know, doing that, especially like in that first year. Because I had gone to architecture school, like all of us basically stuck together for those 5 years. It was a 5 year program, and yeah, I just made an effort to talk to everybody, get to know everybody, and you know, I made really good friends. And it was funny because I had dinner with one of my college best friends not too long ago. It was like, I want to say it was like 3 weeks ago. And I remember my wife asking him like, "Hey, who was your best friend in college?" And he's like Josh was. And then he got his wife, who he also met in school. She's like, "Excuse me, like, well, wasn't I your best friend?" And she's like, "No, that's okay. Like, you met Josh before me. It's fine." But I remember him sharing a story of like, you know, I thought when I first met Josh that first year of college, I thought he was weird. Like he was a little bit too outgoing. And I just remember thinking that was funny because, you know, I really committed to being that outgoing person because I felt like I had been holding myself back for so many years prior to that, and it was just because of how I felt with my acne. But so in college, you know, I was this outgoing person. I still did okay academically. Like I wasn't a straight A student by any means, but you know, I was above average for sure. And I think I overall I did pretty well. But then But then it came to this point where in my third year, I did a study abroad program, and I was in Taiwan for 6 months, and we studied architecture out there. And this is kind of like where life really kind of took a turn for me, or at least the start of what was going to be kind of a big turn of events in my life, and not for, I guess you could say for the better, because it kind of shaped who I am today. And this is something that I've mentioned in previous videos on my YouTube channel, but I've never really discussed it. So I'm going to discuss it today. So in that 6 months that I was in Taiwan, we had exchange, like the foreign students that were part of like the international program that lived there in Taiwan. Like they greeted us. It was a group of like 3 or 4 people, other students, and they weren't necessarily in architecture. They were like more in like social clubs, or like social, like, yeah, I would say like social clubs. And they were there to like really give tours to international students. And so when we went there, I remember there was 2 in particular, like a guy and a girl, and I forget the guy's name. They all had English names, but I forget the guy's name. But the girl's name was Wendy, and Wendy was this like super outgoing, like super bubbly personality person, and she was like really short. She was like probably like 5 feet tall, if not like 5'1". She was like super short. But like I immediately took to her personality, and so while I was there, I got to know her, and ended up helping her through a breakup while I was there, and we just got to know each other, and like we got really close to each other to the point where like we got into a relationship. And it was tough because, like I knew I was going to be coming back home to the US, and she was going to be there in Taiwan. But I think at that time in my life, I was so focused on kind of like my academics that I didn't feel as close as I am today with my mom and my sister. And I don't know, like part of me felt like there was a chance that I could move to Taiwan and have a life there once I was done with school. But that meant spending another 2.5 years of long distance relationship with Wendy, who lived in Taiwan. And so I remember like when it came to like that last week, before I was to return home, it was like the toughest week, because like we cared about each other so much, and it was just a really tough like thing to get through, right? Because there was going to be so much distance between us, and we were used to kind of like at that time being with each other 24/7, and I mean minus like the classes that we were taking. But and then on the way home, or like I think it was like just before like I went home, maybe this was like in December of 2009, I found out that my grandfather had just passed away. And so I was like upset at the fact that I was going to be leaving my girlfriend in Taiwan, and then having to come home to like going to a funeral for my grandfather, who was kind of close to our whole family. And so that was really tough. And we ended up making it work out for the next couple years. Maybe like the next like year, yeah, like year and a half, 2 years. We stayed in the long distance relationship, and when it came to my last year in school, like that was the toughest, because that's when you do your senior thesis project, which is like much more involved than I think all the other projects that you do in school. This is like your final, like you basically take everything you've learned the previous 4 years, and you take the entire fifth year to like really like do research, pick your own site, You find your own site somewhere in the world, and you design a project from the bottom up. And I remember like it was so involved that it was difficult to keep in touch, um, especially because like the time zones were just like almost complete opposites. And I think by that time, Wendy had already graduated, and she was working as an English teacher in Taiwan. And so she had her busy schedule, and it was just tough. It was tough for us to connect around that time. One of the things that I recall from that time is that a lot of my friends, like, they all basically said, like, none of us could have survived as long as you and Wendy have survived long distance. And I went to go visit her once during that year and a half period, 2 year period, and she came to visit me and my family. And her coming to visit my family, like that experience brought me closer to my mom and my sister. And it brought them, it made having a girlfriend from a different country, like basically half a world away, more real to them too. They got to see her personality, like how crazy and bubbly she was. Um, but yeah, just towards the end there, like, it got really difficult for us to find time to communicate with each other. And I think over the course of like between 3 to 6 months, it was just getting to the point where it felt like we were getting more distance between each other. And one thing that didn't help was the fact that my best friend here in the US was another girl who I had been getting closer with ever since I got with Wendy. And her name, well, I'll just I'll keep Wendy's name in, but I won't say the other girl's name. But yeah. So my best friend, she was here in the U.S. and when I came back, like, her and I got closer, and we were hanging out quite a bit. But it had never crossed my mind that anything would ever happen between us, because I had a very strong sense of morality and loyalty when it came to relationships. And during that time when it was really difficult for me to connect with Wendy because of our distance and because of our schedules and because of the time zones and everything, my best friend here in the US, like, she was there for me. And there was this one night where she had an elective class. It was a music elective class, and one of her assignments was to go to like a classical type of concert at another college. And so she invited me to go with her. And there had been a few times where Wendy had expressed her concern at the fact that my best friend here in the US, we were hanging out so much. And she was close to my family too. She was close with my mom and my sister. And that night that we went to that concert, it was a formal event, so we were both dressed really nice. We went to dinner, and then we went to that concert, and it basically felt like a date. We came back to we came back home, and we had another couple glasses of wine, and then we ended up kissing that night. And I was still with Wendy at the time. And when that happened, it it just it just it broke me. I don't know how else to explain it, but like, it had a huge impact on who I believed I was as a person. And I just wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking in the moment. And it's something that happened, and I couldn't take it back. And one thing that I made a promise to Wendy about, before I came back home to the US, when I was studying abroad was she had this like this preconception that basically all guys from the U.S. cheat on their girlfriends, and I told her, my friends told her, like, Josh is not capable of being that guy. He's just not. And I kept reassuring her, like, I'm not that type of person. Like, if that were ever to happen, I would not allow you to stay with me, like, out of principle. Like, I would, like, remove myself from our relationship, and you would deserve better than that. And that's what I ended up doing. I called her, and I broke things off with her, and I told her exactly why. And she was devastated. I was devastated, and it was one of the toughest things that I've had to go through in my life. And it's something that I'm not proud of either. But I think that the years following what had happened were probably the worst years of my life. Like, even more so than the what I experienced with, like, my acne while I was in middle school and high school, and, like, just not being involved with activities and parties and stuff like that, like some of my other friends were. But the I would say, like, probably between 3 to 5 years after that had happened is when I would, well, 5 years after that had happened, I was finally able to forgive myself. But prior to that, like, I my last year of college, I essentially failed every single class that I was in. This is, like, how much it affected me. I failed every single class. My teachers, my instructors, like, they all knew me really well, and they could all, like, clearly see that something devastating had happened to me, but I didn't share anything with them because I was so ashamed of what had happened. But they were all, like, all of my, like, basically all of my instructors except for the architecture ones, they all passed me anyway. They're like, you're a good guy, you're a great guy, like, you were doing well in my class, and obviously something terrible has happened, and we don't want to hold you back just because of this, whatever it is that you're going through. And that even made me feel kind of worse, right? Like, they're telling me I'm this good person, and I didn't, at the time, I didn't feel like that. And so and so it was tough to get through that time, right? Like, I was appreciative of those instructors getting me through it, and then my architecture professors, they basically told me, you know what, take the summer to kind of recoup, come back in the fall. Like, I ended up not graduating with my class, and they told me to come back the next school year, in the next fall, to finish my project out. And I did basically, like, the bare minimum to get that up to a passing level, because my like, I just felt lost in life. I felt like lost as a person. um I just, I was depressed. I developed severe social anxiety because I had kind of closed myself off to the world. I was basically, like, in my room for as long as I can remember, just trying to escape this reality of, what I had done, what I had become, or what I felt I had become. This, like, person that I didn't recognize. And yeah, like, I lived that, and I allowed myself to suffer kind of in silence for 5 years, until I eventually forgave myself for what I had done. And that was just because I was just tired of living this life of, like, no purpose, no meaning. I was just living day to day. Like, the jobs that I took were in architecture, but with, like, these really bad owners who, like, would cuss you out, and kind of pay you under the table, and I got paid late all the time. um, and yeah, I feel like I took these jobs that I kind of felt like I deserved, and that's yeah, it was a really tough time to get through, and it took a long time to forgive myself. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that, you know, my wife has told me this before, there's a lot of guys out there that would have like been proud of what you did, or like would have bragged about what you did. And it's terrible for me to think that there are kind of people out there like that don't have this sense of like morality, or commitment, or loyalty to their partners, because it's just something that is like kind of deeply embedded in me. and and now, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, once a cheater always a cheater. But now I have to spend the rest of my life kind of proving that wrong. And I still recall, even as I'm talking about this, like I recall what I felt, back during that time when I had cheated on my girlfriend. Um and in that time, like, even though that had happened, my best friend here, she stayed by my side. She tried convincing me that I was still a good person. We ended up kind of having a short relationship, but it ended up being really toxic, because I was not in a good space. Like I was somewhere where like I had hated myself, and I ended up destroying. I felt like I destroyed that relationship, that friendship that I had with my best friend here. And it just, I don't know, it just took a really long time for me to kind of come to terms with what I had done. But I think once I finally did, my life started to kind of improve from there. And it was only for, I would say, like 2 to 3 years that it was improving, because I had like I switched jobs, right? Like I was in a job that I really disliked, and then the manager that I was working with moved to a larger firm that had like better benefits, they pay on time, better mentors, and just better people to work with. And he got me a job with that firm, and I was there for uh, 8 years. I was there for 8 years, and those first few years, when I started that job, was kind of like my transition between high school and college, where I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change like who I am. Like I am done living this life of anxiety and depression, and um, kind of keeping myself isolated, and I'm going to be extroverted again. I'm going to like reach out to people, make new friends, and that's exactly what I did. It took me those 5 years to get there, but I think, those were necessary for me to deal with what I had gone through emotionally, physically, mentally, just in every possible way. In order for me to heal, it took that amount, I guess, of kind of self-loathing and self-hatred to get to a point where, like, okay, I think I've done this enough to where I can finally forgive myself. And it was weird because like I felt like there were so many people in my life that were saying, like, you didn't need to take that long to kind of turn things around. But everybody's different. Everybody has their own ways of healing, and their own timelines and their own life experiences. And when I took that new job, I think that's when I had finally decided, I want better for myself now, so I'm going to be more outgoing again. And so that's what I did. And during that time, this was probably in my mid 20s. mid to late 20s that I started that new job, and I was having fun for sure, meeting a lot of people and making new friends at that firm, because it was a really large firm. It was like 150 people just in the office that I was in alone, but the overall company was like around 500 people. But there was a lot of people my age, and it was a great transition for me. But the bad part is that I ended up opening a credit card and doing way more than I should have been doing. Like, buying snowboard gear, like buying camping gear, like spending all this money I didn't have, and racking up quite a bit of debt, having fun in my mid to late 20s. And I'm just finishing off in my mid 30s now. I'm just finishing off paying off that debt that I had accrued in my late 20s, early 30s. And it wasn't until about a couple years ago that I was like, what am I doing with my money? And so, that's when money management to me, like financial literacy, like all that became a priority in my life. And then, once I got all that kind of under control, then I realized that I wasn't happy doing the work I was doing. At that point, up until like a few years ago, I was like, okay, I've made my friends here. We have fun hanging out, but my career, I feel like, is not as fulfilling as I thought it was going to be. And I'm kind of stuck in this one position. And I was kind of scared to move forward because of what I saw at the higher end of what it meant to become either a project architect or a manager. Like taking on that role, like everyone at that firm looked miserable. Like they were just overworked, they were disorganized. It was just and I once, obviously I'm not going to say what firm it is, but like it was not something that I aspired to move up to. And so I stayed in my role, and I was like, something has to change. And I ended up spending my last 2 years there kind of just complaining to myself, like, this is not what I want. Like, I have to do it because I need the money. It's just like I was at a point where like I knew something had to change, but I didn't know what had to change. So then that leads me to about a year ago, when I had finally decided to work on myself again, focus on my personal development, my personal growth. And I picked up a book. I stopped hanging out as much with my friends. I picked up a book, and I think that first book was Atomic Habits. And I picked up the habit of reading more books. And that kind of led me to this, where I am now. And I cannot stress enough like how important in life personal growth, personal development is for everyone else around you too, right? Like it's not like you're not just the one benefiting. Like as an example, when I developed my core values and discovered that health is my number one, I realized when I had met my wife in I think it was my fourth year there, fourth or fifth year working. We had met through this group of us that were doing hikes, that were camping, going snowboarding, all this fun stuff, beach trips. And I met her, and we just clicked, and then we ended up like being on the same team for this gym competition that we did. And she was super into fitness, and she got me being more consistent with my health. And I felt really good, like getting my health back in order, because I hadn't really done anything for my health up until I had met her again. And yeah, when I realized last year. Oh, she has the TV really loud. I'll just leave it. It's fine. Um, yeah, last year when I had developed my core values, I had realized that health is so critical in the amount of energy that I have to pursue my interests. Ophi, can you turn it down a little bit? Thank you. um, yeah, I had realized that if you don't take care of your health, like your energy suffers, you're more irritable. You like you can't contribute your best in all these different areas in your life that you're required to perform, right? And so, you know, health became um, my number one core value and my number one priority. And so that meant, right, that meant physical health, mental health. It meant nutrition, because it all contributes to how you feel, the amount of energy that you have, your relationships. It affects everything, your career. And then secondly, love and relationships was my second core value. And then you guys know what they are, growth, impact, and integrity. And starting to really live my life and making decisions according to those core values has put me on this path towards becoming this life strategist and accountability coach for other people. And it took me developing myself to get to this point where I think finally, I'm going to have this new career, hopefully within this next 3 months, where I'm going to feel way more fulfilled, helping people find their meaning, find their purpose, find their core values, find what drives them, what motivates them. Hopefully help them with their energy levels and their motivation and all of that, right? And I've done, over this past year, I've done all the research. I've documented everything I've learned, things that are psychology based, neuroscience based. I have a ton of techniques to help people with developing their aspirational identities, goal setting, goal tracking, all of that, to help people on their journey in this life. And one thing that I had to kind of admit to myself was that if I didn't read these books, if I didn't get help from all of these people, that these authors, these psychologists, these um, communicators, these like keynote speakers, like I have a list of people that I've learned from, that I could not be where I am today without having all of like their research, their knowledge, all the information that they've shared online. I wouldn't be where I am today without all of them. And so this is kind of like my way to give back to everyone else. And I can't wait for this journey to start. And it's a whole new chapter. Like I've talked it over with my wife, and she's really excited for me, and she's really excited to see where I go with this. And yeah, I think with that being said, this is going to be my last live stream for this next, I want to say this next 12 weeks, while I go through this business program to really accelerate my career as this life strategist and accountability coach. And I'll be back. I'll be back after that. That should be around December that I'll be back. But again, like I said, I'm going to be creating some short form content. I will see if I have time to do some like just the regular YouTube videos that I had done prior to doing these live streams. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what my life's journey has been like up to this point. And there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm leaving out too. And and if we ever in the future, whoever's watching this, if we ever end up getting to work together, maybe you'll get some more of my backstory. But I didn't talk about like the like how we grew up financially with like just my mom, after my dad had left, and the struggles that we went through, just like me, my mom, and my sister. And yeah, the things that I had to go through with my dad, because him being an alcoholic, like there was a whole other set of issues that I had to deal with there, and yeah, it's just like life's tough, life can be tough, and sometimes we just, to be able to make progress in our lives, we need encouragement, we need guidance, we need support, and that's what I'm hoping to be with this whole new transition in this new career that I'm going to be taking on. So that being said, I'll see you guys in the short form content, and hopefully some future YouTube videos. But I'll be back doing live streams. Should be back by December, towards the end of this year, and by then I think you'll probably see a whole new different person. Or I'll be the same, but like I'll be hopefully generating like a nice income, and having clients, and making a difference in the way that fulfills me, and gets me excited to be helping people. But yeah, that's it for this one. Until next time, you guys, keep learning, keep growing.